in this next part, we're moving on to adding enemy objects. So we had rewards in the other part. The reward was getting the worm and getting points, but it's not too difficult because there are no enemy objects that might kill the kiwi. So we're going to add in some enemies. Now before we do that, it's important that you understand about parent and child objects. And for your NCA assessment, good use of parent and child objects is efficient, and that's going to help you to gain excellence. In fact, it's one of the excellence criteria on the marking schedule. So for example, if in this one we are going to have 4 enemies, and all of those different enemies are able to kill, well, we'll sort of kill the kiwi in some way. It'll lose a life. So we can have one general enemy that's a parent, and we can add all the events and actions to that. And then we can make the other ones a child of that. So it might look a little bit different, have a different sprite, but it'll have the same main events and actions. And then we can add, if we want to, additional features onto a child, but it inherits all of its parents' events and actions. And it's just like a person who inherits things from its parents, and then also can have some of its own traits. So our first thing that we want to do is we're going to create a new sound, and that's because when the kiwi runs into an enemy, it's going to make a sound. So this is going to be sound squawk. Where is our squawk sound? Kiwi squawk. And then we will create our new sprite. And this is going to be a trap. So a trap for the kiwi to fall into. Load, and so we're going to load our trap sprite. It's just a regular sprite. Ensure that it has transparency. And then we need to have some, again, event action pair, and here we're going to look at what happens when the kiwi collides with a trap. So on our kiwi we add event another collision. Remember that a lot of games programming is collision detection. So we have the kiwi. Oh, before I do that, I actually need to make an object. Got ahead of myself. So create an object for the trap, which uses the trap sprite. And now we can have the kiwi collide with it. So add event, collision, the kiwi collides with the trap. And what do we want to happen? Well, the first thing is it's going to play the sound. And the sound it will play is the squawk sound. The next thing that we'll have it do is pause for 1 second. And remember, when we add in pauses, it's so that the human eye can detect that something's happening. So we have it pause for 1 second, and then we're going to destroy the instance. And in here, we need to destroy the instance of itself, destroy the instance of the kiwi. And then we're going to have the room restart. So we need to add in the restart room action You can put an effect on if you want to or leave it out. So again, when the kiwi collides with the trap, it's going to play this squawk sound, sleep, destroy the instance of the kiwi, and restart the current room. To test that out, obviously we're going to need to put a trap somewhere in the room, maybe between the two sprites, or two worms. And we'll see what happens when our kiwi hits the trap. And this is going to be tricky because I have it on the ledge right there. So it's going to have to try and walk off. I'm not responding for some reason to clicking in here. Try that again. I'm going to save it. There we go. Just my thing didn't have focus. So I was able to jump off and move quickly enough, but now just to test, I'll run into the trap. Kiwi squawks, had a room transition of a spin, and restarted the room. So maybe I'll try to jump to avoid it, see what can happen, and try it one more time. Yes, it restarts the room and the kiwi instance is destroyed. So we know that part of it is working. But we need other enemies to make the game interesting. So we have a dog enemy, and this dog is going to pace backwards and forwards on the ground. It kills the kiwi in exactly the same way as the trap, so the trap can be its parent. So basically we're saying that if the kiwi collides with the kiwi will be killed, will destroy the instance, and restart the room. So we don't need to reprogram that. We can just say, do the exact same thing that it does when it has a collision with the trap. So we need to create our sprite as usual. So our sprite dog. And this is just a regular sprite, not a strip. And since it's pacing, it does have left and right. So this is our left, sorry, sprite dog right. And then we also need one for our sprite dog left. The next thing we obviously need to do is have an object. So object dog, and we'll start that out with our dog that's facing right. Now what we need to do is we need to tell it that its parent is the trap, and in that way it inherits all of that behavior of what happens when the kiwi collides with the trap. The only thing that we're going to have to do is add some other behaviors about when it, so it can pace and collide with a marker that allows it to pace back and forth. So I'll click OK for that right now. We need to have another object, another sprite, and an object that's going to be our marker. And the marker is going to set the boundaries of where the dog can pace back and forth. So we'll just, while we're here, create a sprite, and that's going to be our sprite marker. It is just a small yellow marker. Now some students were having problems with that. If you edit the sprite, it's just a small yellow image that just serves for collision detection. If you paint it a different color, say red, and then even just fill it back to yellow, that seems to fix any inaccuracies with the marker. So hopefully that will be okay. And we need to obviously create an object for the marker, although the sprite marker doesn't seem to be showing up, but I'll create the object first and go back. So object marker, and we're going to use the sprite and click OK. For the moment, and I'm going to go back into that sprite marker, edit it. See, it looks like it's no color at the moment, which is a bit odd. I know other students were having problems with that. I'm just going to create a blue one. And I've turned transparency off for the moment so that we can see it. And I'm not sure what the issue is with that particular marker. If we have problems with it, we can go back and edit it again. So back to our collision. What we need to do is when the dog collides with the marker, it's going to turn and face the other direction, so it gives the illusion of pacing. So if we go into our dog, we want to have a create event which has it move. So on our create event, we're going to have it move, and we're going to have it move to the right at a speed of 4. So it'll start moving to the right. Then we've got our object marker. We're going to add another event. It'll be a collision event with the marker. And if that happens, so it has a collision, we're going to test what direction it came from. So the variable is direction, and if that direction is equal to 0, which is going to check if it's moving to the right, then we're going to have it change its sprite. So that means it's moving to the right at the moment, so when it collides, so we're going to change its sprite to the left and then have it start moving to the left. So we'll change it into the dog left. Else, Y must be going the other direction. So in our control, then we'll say else, change it into this dog sprite that's facing the left. And then we'll reverse. Sorry, on that one. Else, we're going to change it into the dog right before you go any further. And then we'll have it reverse its direction. And on the horizontal, so itself. So basically, we'll walk through that again. If the direction is equal to 0, that means it's heading towards the right. So we'll change it into the left. Else, if it collides with the marker, it must be coming from the left, so we're going to change it to the right. And then we're going to reverse whatever direction it was going in, so then it keeps moving along, pacing back and forth, pacing back and forth. So to test this, we'll have to put some marker objects in the room. So we'll put one here and there, so the dog can pace. Now I suggest putting them up a level, because if you have them down, when the dog flips, and because it has a tail and more sticking out, the tail will tend to hit the marker, and then it will continuously flip back and forth in an odd motion. So I suggest putting the marker up just one bit off the ground, and then we get our object dog and place that, oops, didn't mean to do that. Place that. I'll have to go get a block because now I've got a big hole. Put that where it should be, and we'll test to see if we've done it correctly, hopefully, and the dog will pace. So now the Kiwi has to get that worm that the dog is guarding. Of course, after we get that working, we can turn off the visibility of the markers. And then test it again. It should still work. The object is still there, it's just invisible. And then we have this invisible pacing dog, or not invisible pacing dog, but dog that is pacing through invisible markers. So we'll stop that section now that we have the dog working, and it should, we should test it because it should work. When the Kiwi hits the dog, it should also lose a life, and that's because we gave it the trap as the parent. Have to try to save and run that again. And now I have focus. I'll try to avoid the trap, but see what happens when I run into the dog. Yep, and I lose a life. Trap, I lose a life. And so the trick here would be to eat the worm and avoid the dog. But if I hit the dog, then it just dies and restarts. So I know that part of it is working. So we'll stop this portion of the video tutorial so you can test all of that.